Good evening or good afternoon, everybody, on this Sunday, which is a bit unusual because it's a bit of a strange time in the world at the minute. We're not going to go too much into any of that because this isn't the fucking news. But one thing, no matter what goes on in the world these days, there's always one thing that can make us feel better about our lives and add a bit of humour, which is needed in times like this. We need a bit of unreality check, shall we say, and there's nothing better to do that, or a person to do that better with than Mr. Lorne Armstrong, our favourite pervert. I mean, he's certainly my favourite pervert. With me are my favourite pervert obsessives. It's Mr. Shin's Koala. Hello, sir.
Hello, everybody.
And my favourite pervert sort of stalker is Tiffany Lockhart.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to have you both on, as always. There'd be pretty much no point
Thank you.
unless you guys were here. Well, I mean, I could rattle on my own a stream, but it wouldn't be anywhere near as entertaining. I can only bounce off myself for so long, So yeah, what I thought we'd do this week, guys, it was actually Shin who came up with this idea of having a bit of a fun scenario about what we'd do if we were kind of quarantined with Lorne. So I wanted to sort of run with that and just have a bit of fun and see if we can get to the bottom of this bizarre, why he's kind of so amusing. It kind of a little bit related to sort of you've been. I'm not going to go into this too much, but as I've mentioned, Tiffany, you watched The Room for the first time the other week, and
I did.
We've been kind of laughing about it for the last week, and it's kind of like that.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's one of them strange scenarios that you can't really put your finger on what it is that makes it amusing, but it's just so fucking funny, isn't it? And it's the same with Lorne.
It's the same with Lorne. His whole life story is like The Room. Can't really
make any sense. Isn't going anywhere.
Right. There's a lot
bizarre
of
sexual innuendos.
Yes, a lot of quotes that can be pulled from it that don't make any sense at all either, but they're so funny.
Do you know what? It's funny about the Lorne situation. Do you know when he was going to get them t-shirts printed and it was going to say, "Don't yell at me, I'm sensitive"? Well,
yes.
What the fuck was that supposed to mean? Where did that come from?
I have no idea. I think it was just his way of trying to get around the issue that he was going to have with Will. Yell at me, why don't you? I think that's all he was doing.
Yeah, but I didn't think that whatever that was like referring to himself as being sensitive. I thought it was like being playful and yes, dear kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it was the same. I think it was the same as when he was saying, "Yell at me, why don't you?" He wasn't saying it seriously. He was being flirty.
He's like going nag, something like that,
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, but where did that come from, though? I mean, you think he tried to flip that phrase to make it out of the Son of Sam realm?
Yeah, exactly. So that it wasn't from the show, exactly. That type of thing. I think that's exactly what he was doing.
Wasn't even close. Just the first two words. That's it. Close. Just change the whole meaning of it, the context and everything.
Yeah.
I think that statement was a little bit closer to home than what we think. "Don't yell at me, I'm sensitive" is how he was feeling about the whole situation. He was on YouTube trying to cling to this thing that people wanted him to be there, and thinking that somehow his presence was requested in some kind of a positive way. But yet when people resorted to having a pop at him in the comments section, he'd kind of respond and just kind of freak out a little bit, which is just bizarre. It's even what the judge said at the hearing. Said, "You're never going to win. What are you trying to achieve?
You're just going to make them more mad."
It's
That's what he said.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the only possible way that he could have in that situation of having any credibility or coming out of it with the least amount of resistance would be to come totally clean, own up to what he did, say what he his and put like an argument forward as to what he's going to do to change, but he did the exact opposite of that. And even if he did that, there'll always be, and I think you even mentioned it, Tiffany, in one of the calls to him. There would always be a certain amount of people that would never forgive him, that would never give him a break, and you can understand it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, definitely. But I think when it comes to the T-shirt, I truly don't think it was anything deep like that at all. I don't think he was trying to show the community his emotions, that he's a person too.
I think he was unconscious. I think it was a subconscious
I
thing.
think it was actually a catchphrase from some old 80s sitcom. That's what it sounded like.
I don't know. I mean, it could
vaguely
be,
familiar.
but I think it was really just his way of saying, well, yell at me, why don't you, in a different way, so that it didn't apply. And actually, I think he mentions it in one of his videos.
Yeah. You know, they got a lot of weird sayings up there, I guess. And I think he could have picked a better one. Don't yell at me.
Of course. The whole idea is stupid. But, you know, he was
we
kind
could do a
of...
stream just on that. Just on the fact that he tried selling T-shirts that he thought in his head that people would like walking round with a sex offender's photo on the. I mean, what? I mean, can you imagine someone walking around with a Gary Glitter T-shirt on?
What about the ones with his face on it? What about the ones with...
Do you remember when he...
Who's that guy?
Do you remember when he did that website? That website called Lorne Armstrong Reality. Me and Adam did a video about it at the time because we thought it was fucking hilarious. And on the photograph of this website was him looking really pissed off with a bottle of beer, like slugging this beer. And it was called Lorne Armstrong Reality, and the irony contained within it. And the photograph he picked, he just looked like some big, like angry, bitter loner. You're trying to create a brand, man. What is it you're trying to do?
Who's his market? Who would his market be for that? I mean, aside from T-cappers and lonographers. I mean, I'm assuming
anyone who watches NBC.
He wanted to go mainstream, right? I think.
Well, of course, he was interested in doing his music.
Yes.
He said that he's one of the biggest things on NBC. So everyone's going to kind of know who he is, according to him, anyway.
You know, speaking of that, I actually went through a couple of his songs on his channel. There was one, he wasn't that bad. He wasn't that bad. He did a cappella, and that helped.
Mm-hmm.
No, it was a guitar. He played the guitar. I think that may have covered it up. But really, I think that one and his original to Kayla was probably his best work. I'm not saying it's good, but it wasn't as bad. But I was surprised. He put some effort into that.
He's not got a terrible voice. If he'd have actually put a bit of effort into singing and like had some vocal coaching and practiced, he could make at best maybe make a part-time job out of it and do a few bars and things like that. There's nothing.
Exactly.
Yeah. But of course, hard work and dedication and stick-to-itiveness are something that don't resonate with him very well. And we got a lot of people in the chat. Hello, guys. Thanks for joining us in this fun stream. And we've not even got onto the topic of what we're going to talk about, which was Shin's idea. So I'm going to let him start first. So, Mr. Koala.
Oh, great! No. If this fails,
whoa! Hold on a minute, Sunshine. Don't you be backing out of this now. You came up with this.
I'll take credit if it does great, but that's it. Yeah.
So, you're quarantined in a house with Lorne, right, for 7 days, just you and him.
Is it
TV,
7? Or...
7 days.
Okay.
What do you do? What do you do?
I think preparation is the key in that case. I think you need to bring over a bunch of your own shit, stuff that you're going to need.
No. You can't do that. That's cheating. I'll lay out the ground rules.
Oh, no. I can't. I was going to bring over a generator.
Minimal provisions. You're in a house. You've got internet access, a TV. You've no contact with the outside world or anything. You're in there with. There's pretty much you and Lorne. That's it.
Yeah. I would quarantine the quarantined area. First of all, I would, somehow try to convince him that we should be separated. Throw some bullshit science at him. Try to con him that way. Convince him that I should have the bedroom. Of course, can I bring over my own sheets at least? I can't do that. I got to
you'd have to sleep in the same
bring
bed.
anything. Yes,
Okay,
you
I'll
do.
take the couch. I'll take the couch.
No, you do, Tiffany, when I ask you that question. But
No.
not Shin doesn't.
No.
Oh, wait a minute.
I think
Go ahead. Sorry.
I think one of the rules should be that you're quarantined with whatever he has in that trailer.
Yeah,
You can't
that would be
bring
right.
all of this stuff with you. Yeah.
So it's kind of like you're driving down the road and suddenly you're right around West Ridge, wherever he is, and there's a roadblock and there's a bunch of cops in hazmat suits and everything else telling you, get in that shelter right now. And you got to go in that shelter. And it's Lorne's shelter. It's Lorne's shelter. Okay, that's the situation.
Yeah.
So whatever we got on our back and in our pockets, that's
You're
it.
stuck in his trailer. You've got the internet access, which is available on your phone. That's pretty much it. You're in his trailer with him for 7 days. What are you going to do?
You can't order a router ahead of time. Okay. All right. Oh, geez. Well, I would thank him, first of all, for letting me in and saving my life. Now, do I know him ahead of time? That's the other thing. Do we know him?
You know he's Lorne.
Okay, shit. Okay. Oh, God. I guess I would have to apologize before I came through
Hang
the
on
door.
a minute. First she was going to thank him, and then now you're
Well,
apologizing.
if I didn't know him, I was going to thank him. Yeah, but all the things I've done to him, of course. I mean, said about it. Yeah, but no, I wouldn't. Well, I'd take a look around, just kind of smelling things and not putting my nose to things, but just kind of taking note of what I smell and where the problem areas are. Yeah, Roscoe's going to be a big help. Roscoe and Sadie will be a big help for me. I mean, at least there's somebody I could talk to. I think I would just look for a place to settle in and just try to convince him that we should just stay as far apart as we can. Am I allowed to handcuff him to a radiator while I sleep? No, I can't do that either.
Not unless there's handcuffs already in the trailer, which there may be.
There may be, actually. Well,
you'd have to get them off him, though. Do you know what I mean? If they're already in there, but we're making a bit of a leap here, aren't we?
Yeah, we'll MacGyver the shit out. We'll duct tape him to a chair or something. That would be my only issue. What happens when I sleep? I don't think he would do anything to me, anything like that. I just wouldn't want him close. I wouldn't want him.
It's going to be hard in that trailer, you know.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I got to think about this. I got to pass this on to Tiffany.
Oh,
come on! I've said enough. I feel like.
Do you know what the ironic thing is about this? Right, Shin messaged me. I said, "Do you want to do a stream on Sunday?" He's like, "I've got a great idea. What would you do if you was quarantined, Lorne?" No, he's passing the book to Tiffany.
I feel like that's Philip Seymour Hoffman character in Son of a Woman when he had to go up and tattle on his friends in front of the whole school body. I said enough. Ask what's his name now. That's what I feel like.
Oh man, I can't believe you've left shouldered that. That's fantastic.
Well, I would look for disinfectants first of all. That's what I would do. I would see what he's got.
Yeah, no, don't forget, you're in Lorne's trailer. You've got to go with the provisions that's in there. There's no disinfectant in that place, is there?
No, I don't think so. I think you'd have to make your own concoction. Maybe you could make something out of battery acid, and I don't know. But I'd be on YouTube a lot trying to figure that out. I would be. I don't know. I just to know I have 7 days. I mean, to be in there and just come in for a visit, that would be kind of fun. But to know I had to settle in there for 7 days, that's pretty overwhelming.
I'd like to see you get involved in a legal argument with him. I'd pay money to see that.
Oh, that's what I would do. I would go through all of his legal papers with him.
Yeah.
I would have him just take out his box and we just spill him on the floor, organize him first, and then tell him basically why he deserves to be in prison, and pretty much just try to cut through those delusions. Maybe I can do something. I don't know. I mean, if I was going to try to do something productive like that. But I think that would keep me occupied, just seeing all of his private paperwork. I would love to see that. I would, you can
do that. But you've got to, don't forget, you can't, well, you could beat him up if you wanted to, but you'd have to live with the repercussions afterwards. But you could, convince him.
What
Legal
repercussions?
repercussions. If you beat
Oh,
him up,
okay.
you might go to prison.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
But of course, you could like I don't know, convince him that you're there to help him, and just ransack his fucking legal documents, and then you. Right, I'm saying what I'd do, but yeah, carry on.
Oh, I would definitely want to know. I mean, I think I would pretend I didn't know him first of all when I walked in there. I don't want
That's a good tactic.
to. Yeah, I mean,
But
I
don't
would.
forget though, he'd recognise you, wouldn't he?
Me? I don't think so. I don't
Yeah,
think.
do you not think?
Well, maybe we can do a shaker weight video together. But I mean, that's the only place he would have saw me. I think. Oh, a couple of thumbnails, I guess.
No, don't. You forgetting about
But he's face
Trip.
blind. He's face blind. He doesn't, especially guys. You know, if you know 5 different Kaylas, all different looks. I don't think I'd have a problem with that.
No, I know. It's just that there was only a few of us at the back of the courtroom, and he might think you're that fucking guy who were there.
Oh shit, that's right. In
I
person.
can't believe you forgot.
Right. It's right. We had a moment.
Mate, me and you are forever imprinted in that guy's brain. How does that make you feel?
As is he. As is he. Yeah. Well, I would hope that I could convince him that I didn't know him. Then and I think that would make it easier. Because then he could tell us all the stories all over again. Everything. And I think that alone. I mean, if I can get him to start from the beginning and go all the way to where he is today, that could take me through the whole 7 days. I think I can ask him enough questions where I can get it going. Now, when it comes to basic needs like food and showering and going to the bathroom, yeah, I got to deal with that. But that's how I would spend my time. And of course,
all that's
whatever
taken care of. We would never put you in a scenario where bathroom privileges are somehow merged with Lorne Armstrong's. That's too much for any human being to bear.
Okay.
Apart from if Tiffany were there, she'd have to share the toilet with him.
I would show him how to make proper shower videos too, and then get the light right and everything else.
Would you know?
Yeah, I don't know him. Remember, I don't know him, but that would be the best hack, I think. In all seriousness, to pretend I don't know him and have him reinvent the wheel and tell me who he is.
Would you pretend that you are attracted to him?
Would I pretend I'm attracted to him?
Yeah.
I would pretend I liked him. I think. I mean, he's nice enough to let me inside, I guess. But nah, well, no. See, I don't think he would be. I don't think he would be somebody I had to worry about sexually. I don't think he would do something like that.
I fucking hope not.
No, in terms of hitting on me or anything like that, I don't think I'd have to worry about that.
No, he doesn't. You don't have to worry about.
You're saying to. Okay, that makes sense. I'm trying to figure that. So, in order to keep him away from me, kind of feminize myself, or
no, just to see what his reaction is, because he's stuck in there with you. You
Don't
can just
forget
kind of
he's homophobic.
Well, that's the
Big
thing.
time.
And so you can say, you can kind of make little, you don't have to make it obvious, but maybe like look them up and down or hold the gaze a little bit too long, that like your lips, like that type of stuff, I think that would be great.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, again, we're talking about 7 days, so I got to pace myself. I don't know if I'd want to do that right away, just in case the opposite reaction I'm expecting. But can Roy come over once in a while? That would help. That would help me a lot.
No,
you guys are
two. Don't be
quarantined.
cheating. Don't be fucking cheating.
Roy's just walking around drunk. He doesn't really know what's going on in the neighborhood. Okay. All right. So we got basically Sadie. Yeah, it could be done, I think. But there'd have to be some clear ground rules, though. I mean, and as I said,
set the dogs out for a walk once a day for an hour because you'd have to get out of there.
I would do that.
That'd be too much to you've got to stay healthy. We don't want you to have any kind of mishaps. And if you were stuck in there all day every day with Lorne, I think anybody would just go fucking insane, wouldn't they?
Yeah, you know what? To tell you the truth, I think I would I'd be so bored, when I'm not
You
hearing all
wouldn't.
this.
I don't think you'd be bored. Not with all his legal documentation and your
Well,
keeping
yeah,
legal
I'm
mind.
trying to find ways to, but I would try to help him, like finish his floor or something, or finish the master bedroom, or whatever he's working on. At least it'll occupy my time. Probably that, but that would be my best way. Which would be, I think, a totally different situation if it was a woman who ended up getting quarantined with him, especially an attractive one.
Right. Well, we'll come back we'll come back to you, Mr. Koala. You've done quite well there, considering I sort of sprung it upon you, even though it was your idea. Speaking of how a female would get on, Mr. Koala has done a good job, but we'll go back to him. Miss Lockhart, what the fuck would you do? And we will allow you the privilege of him not knowing that you were the character of Debbie, right? So you're just a female who's driving down the road, and by some cruel twist of fate, the government has said, due to you both had to be self-isolated, you've both caught this fucking posh flu, you're both in this trailer together, and you can't leave for 7 days, but you can take the dogs out for an hour a day. What do you do?
I would wait until he went outside to take a piss, and then I would lock him out.
But don't
So
forget,
it would be pretty.
no, you're cheating. Don't you? Whoa,
Why?
whoa, hang on a minute. Whoa.
That was perfect. That's so different.
You cannot. I didn't let Shin get off lightly, and you're not getting off lightly either. You're stuck in there for 7 days. You can't lock him out. He's not going out for a piss. You're both using the bathroom inside. What are you going to do?
Oh, and
gonna go.
Real quick, one more preface. Just so you know, the virus is raging outside, so you cannot touch his face. Whatever you say. Go ahead.
But he is going to go outside and take a piss because that's what he does. I would convince him to because he's worried about his. Listen, this is my story. This is my story. How I handle it.
No, but your story can't involve cheating. You're in there for 7 days with him. You can't lock him out after 5 minutes.
Wait a minute. Is the shed an alternative? Is the shed an alternative?
What's funny about this is you can't even. The idea is that sickening to you that you can't even imagine that scenario in your brain because it's too disturbing for you to contemplate.
Yeah, I would have to get him out of there. That's my only survival tactic is to get him out of there. But if I had to play and I had to be in the same house as him, I would definitely divide it so that he was absolutely separated from me. I would have the dogs.
That's cheating.
Yes.
You gotta do. Shin gave us what he would do, right? He wasn't comfortable in that scenario either, but he actually thought about what he was going to do, and it didn't involve locking him out, and it didn't involve splitting the trailer into two so that you didn't have to have any contact with him.
Commit, Tiffany. Commit.
Yes.
So you're saying that I have to be around him for
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not saying you
but
have to
I
sleep.
wouldn't, though.
Would you rather deal with the virus, I guess?
Yeah.
Where are you going to go in that trailer?
I would probably go in the closet that's not done and hide. And then drink a bottle of bleach.
Can I ask? Okay, let's say you've got past the reality that you have no choice. You've got to be there. You are there, and the door's locked. What would your attitude be toward him?
It would be horrendous.
Like for example, are you pretending you don't know him ahead of time, or obviously you guys just met, but you're aware of it?
I believe what Johnny Utah said.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he has to run outside.
So how would you treat him, Tiffany?
How would I treat him? I would treat him like Debbie treated him.
Oh.
Just, I wouldn't be able to be cordial with him at all. And I wouldn't be able to play along with something like that. I think I would tell him who he is and just set a bunch of ground rules that he can't even look in my direction.
Oh my God. That bad. Okay.
Of course. But I still say that I'm allowed to trick him into going outside. And then at that point, he is contaminated and can't come back in. So
That's true.
too bad.
That's cheating.
It's not cheating.
What? Right. I don't know how else I'm going to have to word this. You're in the
Well,
trailer.
I can do it. The scenario is you both have to be inside. I mean, you both cannot kill each. Well, what you do inside is what you do inside.
You can kill him if you want, but you got to deal with the repercussions.
Oh,
like prison.
Yes, and a rotting corpse for however many days.
I think that I would probably, like I said, just treat him like Debbie did. Probably question him a lot.
He would. I think he would be very attracted to that.
I know he would, and that's gross, and that's why I need to get him out of there.
You really would have no choice.
Well, I wouldn't handle it very well. That's for sure.
I mean, what's the alternative? Be nice to him and then have him take that totally wrong.
Well, yeah, he's gonna take it totally wrong. Definitely, no matter what. I mean, even if you're just showing an interest in him as far as getting information or trying to figure out what's going on,
right.
He sees that as spending time together. So, I can see the end of that week, that conversation where he would just be kind of like sad that it would be over, and he would be kind of surprised that I would be leaving because I think he would want somebody there all the time.
So you wouldn't have this attitude toward him because you had this pre-existing anger or anything like that. You would do it as a defense mechanism because you know that if you were to act differently, even friendly, you would have problems. So it's
definitely
kind of
would have problems. I think that if I were to go at it from a standpoint of being a total stranger, I think that Lorne in his creepiness is going to set up huge red flags. Mm-hmm. Just in the way that he is. And I would also take a look around that trailer and just think I'm in hell. What did I do to deserve this? It's disgusting.
Wrong place.
Jizz everywhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So what would Andrew do since he has all of these rules?
You've not finished yet. You've not even got going. You've got to. I know it's difficult for you to allow your mind to go down that avenue, and I get it because you, being a female, is a completely different scenario than what Shin was saying. And look how uncomfortable he was. You know what I mean? And he mentioned Lorne potentially coming on to him, but for a woman, it's going to be like you're going to be creeped out. It's going to be hell, isn't it? But let me put this scenario forward for you, right? Mm-hmm. There was a $10 million bill at the end of it. If you could get through 7 days, you weren't allowed to kill him. Because even me mentioning this virus that's going around isn't enough for you to allow your mind to actually do it. So if I say 10 million quid, 7 days, you can't kill him. You can't fucking lead him outside and tell him there's a 13-year-old under a tree, as Johnny Utah brilliantly said. You're in that trailer for 7 days. You can be horrible to him. You can be nice to him. You can come up with all kinds of crazy scenarios. You can say what you want. You can pretend you know him, anything. But you have got to survive that 7 days. How do you do it?
With him there, he cannot leave. You cannot make him leave, right? That's part of it. So you got to have balance.
If you're saying you don't want the 10 million and you're being honest and you would forego that money, then I'll have it and then we don't need to talk about it anymore.
I would spend a week there for $10 million. Sure.
Yeah, who wouldn't? Yeah.
But
absolutely.
It's not going to be pleasant, for him even, I don't think.
You could turn that situation around and make it fun. You could do what you did in some of the calls and psychologically fucking destroy him. It wouldn't be difficult.
Yeah. No, it wouldn't be difficult. I think the very first thing that comes to mind is that I would want to put on as many clothes as possible, maybe to hide that I'm a woman. Do you know what I mean?
You've got to wear a bikini the whole time.
Right. That's way too much. I mean, that's
I was
Let's
a
put it
joke.
this way,
I wouldn't wish that upon my worst fucking enemy.
Yeah. I think that would definitely, it would make me really feel uncomfortable. To just have the way that his mind thinks. It's so disgusting. I'm sure that a lot of guys are like that, but the point that we know the way that his mind works and we've heard it and it's really gross that I wouldn't want him to look at me. It would really creep me out. So
fat lady clothes. Yeah, that's it.
something, I mean, something somehow just to make it so that, it was kind of hidden from him, I guess. But that you're right, though. I would be really interested. I don't think that I would hide that I don't know him or that I do know him. I think that I would say that I know him. I would tell him that everyone knows him.
Yeah. Tiffany, you're in the best position to answer this. How do you think he would react to either a man or a woman coming in? And he has no choice but to accept them into his house.
Well, I think the way that he reacts to men is that certainly if he was in a position where he would be forced to allow them in, that he would, he would treat them like a prison roommate. Just, they got to be there. Okay, fine. You sleep over here. I'll sleep over here. And, this is here's where the TV is, that type of stuff. Like, I think it'll just kind of be like, just cordial. And, he would hate every minute of it. But for a woman, I think it would be very, very different. I think he would love it. And he would have that sort of like, he would want the woman to experience some kind of a Stockholm syndrome, even though he's not holding her captive. But at the end of it, be like, wow, I really liked hanging out with this guy. He made it okay to be quarantined.
Yeah.
And I could just imagine, his face, like he's like hopeful, and he'd be looking for any kind of a sign of attraction on the woman's part, so that he can take that and run with it.
But it doesn't take much.
But he doesn't know how to spot things like that, though, does he? He just doesn't. He doesn't think like normal men.
No, he doesn't, but he's going to do it in his own way. Just like when he says she was gawking at me. Really? It probably was that she happened to make the mistake of looking in his direction. Didn't even see that he was standing there. Maybe did notice that he was standing there, but was looking around because she's at a fucking yard sale.
Right.
She's in a yard where stuff is thrown around everywhere, and she's trying to figure out what everything is. It doesn't mean that she's gawking at him. So, but he's going to take a sign like that. So if I happen to look in his direction for any length of time, he's going to think that it means something. He probably would make little comments about being naked.
Can he be, though? Is that part of the scenario? Is he allowed to be as he normally is?
Well, why wouldn't? Yeah, I mean, he's in his natural habitat. So
well, that's not right. Okay, that scenario is different now. My answers change if I hear that. I don't want him walking around naked.
Well, no, I don't think he would. I don't think he would.
Okay.
But I think that he would make little comments of like, if the discussion came up, like, oh, what do you sleep in or something like that, he would say something. Well, I have a big penis, so I have to sleep naked because it's not comfortable.
That's good, buddy. Yeah. I think one of the things that would drive me crazy about him is his stupid things that he says. I think I would just get,
You'd end up hitting him, Shin. You'd end up hitting him.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd hit him. I think I'd yell at him as much as loud as he yells about shutting the fuck up about Dan. I think I would go that loud. It would drive me nuts. It would just drive me nuts just to hear him say stupid, mundane things, and especially if he starts repeating stuff and trying to force a conversation rather than just relax. Those kinds of things would make me a little uneasy. But at some point, I would get sick of. Oh God, his constant phone calls with his mother. I just hear his voice. I try to get in an area where I couldn't hear him that well. I think that's for sure, unless I'm talking to him.
Anyway, I think our plans would fail. Like we go in there, not necessarily. It wouldn't turn out quite how we wanted. Do you not remember that feeling? I don't know if you had that feeling when you was in the courtroom, but it wasn't a pleasant feeling when he was up close with us. It was a really... I felt... I don't know whether this was my mind playing tricks with me because it was such a surreal situation. I have mentioned this in the videos we did about the court hearing. He's got like a dark aura around him. He's not a pleasant person to be in contact with because... that dark presence that's in him. I'm buying into stuff like that. It goes with you. There's something more to it, and he has that dark aura around him, and it's like it wouldn't be pleasant. There's so much humor there, but he's just not a nice guy. It's like, he's only got his 2 friends, hasn't he? And they're only there because they want beer off him. He doesn't have any real friends. Nobody that thinks anything positive about him. There's only his mother who's there because she has to be, isn't there?
That's funny that you said that because I was trying to figure out what emotions I had when I saw him too. I think what the emotion that the best way I can describe it is the emotion I didn't have. That is, it's not funny. It's not funny anymore.
No. It wasn't when he was in your presence, like face to face. It was funny when he said he went on his rant. But you were too busy. I don't think you laughed then, did you? You were too busy kind of writing it all down, weren't you? You was kind of...
Well, at some point when he gave his big speech and brought down the house, I was all ears at that point. And then from there on out, that was near the end of the hearing. And then he pulled out. But, just seeing the back of his head the way we did for the first 20, 25 minutes, I didn't get that giddy feeling, this is funny. Look, there's Lorne. No, it's like it was more, like you said, it was more dark.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like to me. Yeah, I get that. I couldn't put my finger on it.
It was it's very strange, isn't it? I value that experience though in a strange way. It's very, very strange, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm glad I had it. I'm glad I did it. That's for sure. But at the same time, I didn't have any expectations of how I was going to feel one way or the other anyway.
No.
I just noticed that something was missing this time. It was maybe it was the seriousness of the solemn occasion that we were there for. For all I know.
Maybe it was the beers the night before as well.
Yeah, the martinis actually. Yeah. But I think you would get the same feeling, Tiffany, if you ever saw him in person. It's not funny anymore. Well, then again, you don't really think he's funny sometimes. Sometimes you do, but most of the time you're straightening him out. But it's just a different aura. That's the best way to describe it, Andrew. It's a feeling. It's a mood. Just something comes over the whole room, actually, if you know who he is. If you didn't know who he was and you just walked into the courtroom, he'd just be another scumbag.
Yeah. I think part of it is because, obviously we it's such a strange situation to have studied this guy for so long, to know so much about him, to have laughed at him, but yet know the serious dark side of him, and then be face to face with him. It was kind of an unprecedented situation, really. Very unusual. But it gave me a valuable insight as to the type of character he is, really. And I remember when he was complaining about the shackles being on too tight, wasn't he?
Yeah. That was at the end, wasn't it? When they were putting him back on.
Well,
yeah.
He said something at the beginning as well. I remember he said something to his legal guy at the side of him, but then he was really complaining about it at the end, and it was quite insightful, that, because that was his victim mentality coming out again. It was like, I don't deserve to be in these shackles. This is too tight. Why am I being treated like this? Why is the judge saying those nasty things about me? Why are those people at the back? You can't escape this victim mentality. That
was an amazing
through his core.
You're absolutely right. That was an amazing part of what he did. The way he was able to switch his moods so quickly. At first, he was when we came in. I know we're going back and talking about this, but we're talking about if we actually met him in person, and just to share some of our experiences. But when you first went in there, he was almost, very calm, talking to his lawyer, looking back at his mother once in a while, seemed very fine. Then he goes to the sad stage where he gives his speech and he's crying. I mean, he's just crying harder than as hard as I've ever seen him. And then as soon as it was over, boom, he was fine again. And that to me was amazing. The switch just went off like that real quickly.
Yeah,
he just shut off the crying.
It says a lot, doesn't it, about where those tears came from. They weren't genuine kind of tears of pain even. It wasn't pain, it wasn't remorse, it wasn't... it was just... It was that victim mentality. That's where the tears were. It was, woe is me. Why has this happened to me? It's like... It was the very definition of pathetic, really. From a grown man who we don't think has any overt mental health problems. We're going to talk about this more in the future stream, definitely, but that for another time. But it's can most men cry on demand? I don't know, Amanda. I'm a bit of a crier, really. I cry when I watch movies sometimes. Probably shouldn't have mentioned that too much, but
I'm a crier too in movies. I embarrass my daughter's birthday.
That makes me feel better now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, his tears. I mean, you were fully versed in his crying modes, Tiffany. What do you think about his tears?
Yeah, his tears aren't actually legitimate out of pain. His tears have to do with him trying to convey an emotion that he believes suits whatever it is that's happening at the time, and possibly to take the heat off of him as well. So I think when it comes to him complaining about the shackles being too tight, he did that in his first arrest as well. And I think that is his way of getting some type of a feeling of sympathy or positive attention from the people at the jail or the police officers. It's in a way of getting them to do something for him. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, and I'll probably have to think about it.
It's manipulation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like not that they would see him differently, but it was a way of getting some type of care from someone. And Lorne thrives on that. He wants people to take care of him. That's where he feels the most comfortable. That's where he feels love. So that's the way he interprets it. So getting that from the police officers and the people at the jail, they're taking care of him because they're in a position where they have to. They have to do certain things in order to make sure he's comfortable or whatever. So that's kind of his way of doing that. But yeah, his tears aren't real legitimate. I don't think he actually has real emotion. And I'm sure we'll talk about that
cold.
Again. Yeah, no.
Get
well,
off
I
his
don't
balls,
think he does.
man.
I think get off his balls. Yeah. But I think that he really just sort of mimics what he thinks is going to be proper emotion. And for him, crying is something that he used just to disarm people. I'm sure he used it as a kid. I'm sure he used it in a lot of different situations, and that's sort of what he does. He just cries.
Yeah. He probably threw tantrums as a kid. That's my guess. But but there's something about his crying that there is something in there that's hurting him. Otherwise, he does it so well. I mean, the tears are there. Everything's really there. He just knows how to turn it on and turn it off. But you're right. He uses it for all those reasons. But I think underneath it all, I think sometimes he gets hit with the reality.
What that kind of gets during the interview when he was crying and no one else. I've just brought it up on screen now. When he was being interviewed by the cops after the sting, and he was crying for quite a while before the cops entered the room, wasn't he? Unless he was still part of, even though he knew no one was listening, it's kind of still his little... Because sometimes you can act up to yourself, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think he was working himself up. one of the things you have to ask yourself is why would he be crying? And with him, there were several reasons that could have been. One, he could have been disappointed that Kayla wasn't real. Two, he could have been disappointed that now his life is fucked. And the third is that he was just scared. Combination of all. But I truly think he cries when he's scared, and those are real tears. And he is looking for sympathy, obviously. But he was in that room for a while. He was squeaking and crying and everything else. But I would be crying for a totally different reason. I'd be crying like, what the hell did I do? How was I so stupid? That's why I would be crying.
I'd be crying like my life's over.
Yeah. So with him, I think you got to remember he was still combative throughout his jail time, and also, I remember reading some psych records on the inside when he was there, and how they had to basically control his crying fits when he came in to talk to them. And they hit him with Elavil, and then they hit him with Prozac eventually. So they actually believed he was really showing genuine emotion. It wasn't about manipulation or anything. And I happen to believe that. I think there's something there that he's crying about that is like a dose of reality or something. And all have their triggers. Actors all have those. And again, if he's going to manipulate or something like that, actors all have their tricks, pulling a nose hair out or something to get some tears out. He could be thinking about something like that when he wants to get it going, and it's not necessarily for the present situation. It's just a guess.
Yeah, I think that it does happen like that sometimes, and other times it doesn't. Like when he's reading the chat log, and that was a performance to him. Whenever he would cry, he was crying basically through the whole thing. He was acting like he was so disgusted by what he was saying. He couldn't believe that he was actually saying it. But then as soon as he believed the recording stopped, it was, "I do love you, baby." He's talking to the dogs. It's immediate. It's an immediate change. And another reason why I don't think that his crying is legitimate. I mean, obviously it's going to happen from time to time. I do believe he was crying during the interview when he got caught because he knew that his life was fucked at that point.
Which interview, with Chris or the...
No, the one where he's at the police station. So yeah, I think that he knew at that point. When he was talking to Chris, he knew that he was in trouble, but he didn't know yet what was happening. He didn't know who Chris was. His crying started when he saw the camera come out. As far as his really strong reaction.
Right.
But aside from that, whenever he mentions crying, it was always, "I was crying all night. I was crying for 3 hours." And it's like, no, you weren't. It never even happened. Yeah. So I don't think that any of the stuff is real when it comes to him being emotional and stuff like that. When he's talking about being really upset, I just don't think that it's there. I think he just kind of talks about it. But as far as his real life, if we were to witness him sitting in his trailer or going about his life, when he's talking about how he's doing the crying, he's not doing any of that.
Yeah, there's some kind of a disconnect between whatever emotion he cries for and the actual crying itself. We don't actually know what goes on there. But he does cry.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to remember, as if we need remembering, of course we don't, but I'll say it anyway, we're not dealing with an emotionally healthy guy. Of course, we could all say we're not emotionally healthy. If you dig deep enough, we've all got our insufficiencies and, this little quirk wrong and that's wrong and this trauma's fucked you up. But if you look at him, he's not able to function in society properly. He's somebody who's not well adjusted. He can't maintain relationships with anybody. Just one look at one page of the chat log and you go, this guy is on another fucking planet. So it's very difficult. Like you just said, Shin, where the fuck does the crying come from? There's a disconnect there. I find it very interesting. Any human being, no matter who they are, even the disturbing ones, we all like to delve into this dark subject. Every human being is an infinite well of intrigue in various ways. Of course, you know, I don't mean like in charming ways, but with Lorne, there is a reason why we're still talking about this guy years after, and we are interested in his psyche. You know, where do these tears come from? Why is he crying so much? Is there any real emotion there? Is there, you know, it's kind of like, it's like we found an android and we're taking it apart piece by piece to try and figure out how it works. You know, so yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Like you try and find the humanity in him, but it's like there's just layers and layers of bullshit. It's like, you know, you tried your best, didn't you, Tiffany, to get through to him? You didn't get anywhere, did you?
No, nowhere. Nowhere at all. No.
You know, even going beyond trying to find the humanity in him, just trying to find common ground is a tough one. Where we agree on things. Where can we, you know, certain things we agree on. And I think it would be very difficult for me to find anything that I would agree with him about. Oh, well, he agrees in principle about things, and he'll give you the lip service, and he'll tell you what you want to hear. But if he was absolutely truthful, you know, there wouldn't be much to agree with him about. But
common ground's an interesting topic there, Shin. If you're going to be stuck in a trailer with him for 7 days, and this applies to both of you, there may be things that you may like, one or two of the same songs or artists, a couple of movies. You know, do you like Rocky IV? You know, do you know, he probably likes some music that you do. He likes, what's that TV show he likes? Is it The Big Bang Theory?
Big Bang Theory, yes.
He does, yeah.
I hate that show, but that's okay.
Yeah,
I'll watch
I'm not
it.
a fan.
You know,
I'm not a fan.
well, I don't want to say hate that. I hate television in general. That's the other thing that would bother me, to have the television on with those commercials blaring all the time, and then come and knock on my door. You know, something that just I couldn't take TV. I haven't watched TV or had TV for about 10, 12 years now. You know, and there's a reason. It's because I feel like it's just blasting at you. You know, all these.
It's not healthy. It's not emotionally healthy at all.
No, it's not, and it wasn't a very relaxing for me. You know, and then the other thing is, it was, well, I'm not going to get into that, but that the TV would kill me.
I don't think that the TV would be the problem. I think it'd be the other guy there.
Yeah, you know, you seem to have snuck out of this question here. I'm not sure. Tiffany, did you hear him answer this at all? What would he do?
He didn't answer it at all. No.
I didn't think so either.
No.
And do you have you been thinking about it, or are you going to basically?
No, I'm not going to sidetrack it. My answer is not going to. This is what I would do, right? I would. Can
I just predict something?
Yeah. I think I know what you're going to say. Yeah.
You're going to talk to him about meditation.
Yes.
Yes.
You're gonna try to talk about life and
metaphysical,
metaphysics, how he can make it better, and that kind of stuff. So.
You're gonna give it a damn good shot, Andrew. I know that.
Is exactly what I would do, but I also know I'm also not naive. I would go in there with the best intentions, because I'd have to be true to myself, even though I can't. It would be ridiculous of me to not agree with all the catfishing, yet go in there and psychologically fucking ruin him from the first. You know, that would be terribly hypocritical of me. So I'd go in there with the best intention. I say, right, Lorne, this is the situation. You know, this is what you need to do. This is how you do it. These are the tools. I can help you, and I guarantee it would take less than a few hours for me to realise that I was not going to get anywhere with this guy. And then at that point, because I'd wasted all my energy and really tried, I would spend the next 7 days psychologically fucking ruining that guy so he wouldn't know his fucking ass from his elbow by the end of the week. That's what I would do.
And how would you do that?
Yeah.
In numerous ways. I'd convince him that NBC had sent me there and it was some kind of conspiracy theory. Chris Hansen is somehow related to him and that he was in on it from the beginning. I'd convince him that Kayla was real. I'd try it on with him and pretend I was gay.
Holy shit, you have a lot in your holster, man. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, I would somehow make him think that the dogs were talking to him. I don't know how I'd do that, but I'd make him think that the dogs had a voice and were talking to him at night. I'd piss on all the food in the fridge so that he'd just freak out, but I'd make him think that the dogs did it.
And protect him when he tries to punish him. Yes.
Yeah. What else? I'd make him watch The Sting over and over and over again. Especially, in fact, I tell you what I'd do. I'd put that.
He's got the DVD, right? He's got the DVD.
I'd put the video on YouTube that Baked Salmon did the other day. That awkward moment video that they did when they did that compilation of like. Did you guys see that?
I keep going.
Baked Salmon did a video a few days ago, and it was like the most awkward Lorne moment ever, and it was all the really awkward exchanges between Chris Hansen and Lorne.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, and it was like edited out, and it just made it look really fucking like so awkward. And I'd make him watch it over and over and over again, and said, "There's a hidden message in this. Honestly, it's trying to tell you that you're innocent, right? The secret to you getting £80 million from NBC, it's there." And I'd make him rewatch it and rewatch it and rewatch it, and then I'd tell him his mum's on the phone, but it wouldn't be his mum; it'd be the talking clock. I said, "No, it's your mum. It's your mum." And then I'd make him listen to the talking clock over and over again. "Lorne, that's Mother Gwen on the phone. What are you doing, man?" I'd just fucking ruin the guy.
Andrew, you got training in this.
No, but don't forget, that's after me trying my best, and that's assuming he didn't listen to any of my advice. Because at some point, you've got to come to a realization, as you did, Tiffany, where you realize some people cannot be helped. You try, you do the human thing, and then you go, you're screwed. Because that's the only way that I'd be able to survive that 7 days without going insane, and I come first before any fucker, so he'd be doomed.
Andrew, that was great. I did not expect that. You had that. That was good. That was really good.
That was all. That wasn't like that. Was just what came out of my brain, really. Because don't forget, I've got like a personal, as we all do. We have some kind of bizarre personal investment in Lorne. You know, we've all spent a lot of energy.
Yeah.
You know, for better or for worse, on this motherfucker. Yeah. There's a lot of built-up emotion in each one of us. You know, you have really strong opinions about him, Shin. You know, you've got really quite emotional when we've touched on some of our deeper topics before.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of raw emotion has come to the surface, even like hostility. Well, you've even said you hate him, and you know that it's understandable. And you, Tiffany, you know, we when we did the stream a few weeks ago, when you talked about your own personal, you know, you sort of family story and that, it touches upon you delicately as well, doesn't it? It's difficult for all of us, some more than others. I don't have a personal attachment to that type of thing like a lot of people do, like you do. So in some respects, it's even harder for you. It's like I struggle to understand how you actually got through as much as you did without doing what I just said I'd do. You actually tried to help him. I just think that says a lot about you as a person, really.
Well, in all honesty, I can't say that I was trying to help him.
No, but
for
you weren't
his
trying
benefit.
I know you weren't doing it just for his benefit. I know there's more to it than that. But what I mean is, it doesn't really matter what your motivation was. You weren't. You was the right advice to sort him out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just as far as getting him to admit some stuff, you know, that he has gone so many years saying the same things. I never even meant to do it. All of the stories are the same. And so just to try and interject and say, that's all bullshit, Lorne. How about if you tell the real story? Why do you keep saying this? Why do you keep going down this path when it's total garbage? Like, you look stupid. You're not fooling anybody. Everybody knows. And this is the reason why all of the shit has happened to you. This is the reason why you have people on the internet talking about you, you know, laughing at you, making up songs about you, everything. This is the reason why. It's not because you happen to be on television and all of a sudden you're some kind of a celebrity entity. It's because you look like an asshole and nobody understands it. There's no connection. I think one of the reasons why people get so upset, and I know for myself, and really have a difficult time trying to understand it, is because it doesn't make sense. The fact that you went to have sex with a child, the fact that you went through the whole process to get there, even from the point of grooming and talking to her like a child, getting on the phone with her and having baby talk with her. But at the same time, inserting sexual things like, are you anxious to touch my penis? You know, talking about what color panties she's going to wear. And it's really disturbing. And there's a lot of things I think that could happen in people's lives where we can sort of generate some type of a pattern and we can say, oh, well, I kind of understand. It doesn't make it okay, but I kind of understand how someone can get involved in drugs and then they start to behave erratically and maybe they committed a robbery or something like that. There's no correlation that I can find that has to do with anybody's life experience, alcohol use, any of that stuff that goes along with having sex with a child.
He tries to make depression part of that. He tries to say that that's
right, exactly, and right, depression, having terrible relationships with families, being unsuccessful with women, all of that kind of stuff. None of that goes along with it, and that's why I think for me, his crime it blows my mind.
Yeah,
because I can't find any sense to it at all.
Well, there's a huge void of information we don't have about him. There's so much. That's the thing. We know so much about him, but there's so much we don't know.
Yeah.
To answer some of these questions. Maybe we'll never get it. Questions. But Andrew, the reason why I hate him, and I got to say this, as compared to a lot of other predators and a lot of other guys out there are probably more dangerous. I'm thinking of Westerbeck and Bodner and those guys.
Yeah.
Is because of his chat log. It
one
wasn't
of the worst ones though, Shin. Maybe?
Well, no. Again, you're assuming it's because of whatever he said that was vile or that was highly inappropriate. It wasn't that. What got me more than anything, and it was from the very beginning as well, and it just carried through with me, is every time he mentioned something about going around your parents, doing something that was against her interests as a child, not caring about her grades, getting a lock on your door, all of this stuff where he was undermining her father in those situations. That got me.
McFetridge did that as well.
Pardon me?
McFetridge, not to stick up for Lorne, but McFetridge did the same thing as well. It is
right. Well, Lorne did it all the way through. We're not going to tell your parents that I'm going to be sticking my penis in your vagina when they're gone, are we? Things like that. It was like
that touch a nerve with you, especially Shin, because you're a father.
Yeah, a daughter too.
You can. We all relate to things from a personal level. But we do. It's in our nature. So does that make the emotion stronger with you because you could envision somebody like him trying to harm your child?
Maybe, but to me it was more of like an invasive thing. It was like, who the fuck are you to come into somebody's family and destroy it like that?
The audacity.
Yeah, it was more that.
Incredible.
It wasn't, my role as a father is to do this and this. No, it's like, who the hell are you to talk to a girl like that?
Yeah.
To make a girl smile, or he thinks he's making her smile. You have no right to do that.
No.
And then to come into the house, my house? Are you fucking kidding
me? Dead cocky as well.
Just
like
the
Casey
thing.
said in the
Steel
show.
balls.
What Casey said in the show, on the segment on TCAT, where she's like, he came in walking very proud, very excited. It's like, if you really think about where that attitude of his comes from when he walks through that door, it's the height of arrogance.
Yeah.
You know, arrogance is bad enough as it is, and I hate arrogant people because arrogance is just,
Combine that with
arrogance is just a lack of wisdom,
Yeah.
really. And
Yeah.
with him, it's even worse because he knows what he's doing is terrible,
Yeah.
but he's reveling in it.
Yeah. That's what I mean. That's what I'm talking about. You know, and the other thing is that, you know, going back to the scenario where we have to stay with him for 7 days, that would be one thing I'd be highly interested in doing, and that would be to play the Holy Grail and stop it and ask him what was going through his head at that moment. What was going on? What was going on now? What was going on? I want to know that kind of stuff.
But don't forget, though, Shin, as much as I'd love to do that as well, you're not going to get any kind of response that you want from him, are you?
No, I don't think so. Well, you know, if I'm alone with him, maybe he'll make me. Maybe he'll be honest. Maybe I'll make him be honest. I don't know, but you know, I always wanted to know that, and also through his police interrogation, I definitely would want to interview him line per line on that one. You know, what were you doing? What were you thinking? And we had 7 days, right? We got plenty of time to do.
Oh yeah.
So, and then by the way, we can bring in recording equipment. Well, yeah, we have our phones. You said we could bring our phones in. So
you've got access to the internet. You just can't leave. Basically, the idea being you've got to spend all this time with him.
Got it. So I would use it for my purposes, just like you said. Well, your purposes would be dissolved in 10 minutes when you realize he wasn't going to listen to you or understand what you're saying, and then you would just go nuts. That was beautiful. I'm going to play that again when I get home.
I know.
Your rant.
I know. Just think about how much fucking time we spent listening to those things. It's crazy. But yeah, there's lots of things I'd like to ask him to get genuine responses from, but you just know you'd be wasting your time. It literally is just a waste of time.
Yeah. Wes says, if we could bring one thing, we'd bring sodium pentothal, and then hit him in the neck right away. No, normally you do it in a nicer place, but I would want to hit him in the neck with it, and then sit him down and go over the Holy Grail. That would be fun.
If Lorne, right, let's just say by some miracle of the universe, and I will always cling to my belief that every human being within them carries the seed of enlightenment there. I won't get too deep into that because I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. Let's just say a miracle happened and he repented his sins, right? And came to a total realization of everything that he'd done, admitted it all, expressed genuine remorse. Would you give him a break?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh God, I think I'd, you know, on a personal level, it would be hard not to. I would say, good dude, stay like that. I wouldn't, you know, reward him or anything like that. I would just say that's the way you're supposed to be. That's normal. You know, I'd be happy that situation happened, but I wouldn't praise him or especially if I'm the only one who's witnessing this. You know, I would say.
No, I didn't mean in that trailer scenario. I just meant in general. Really, I just thought it just seemed like an interesting question to ask you. That's all.
Well, it'll take the wind out of our sails. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, you know, for what it's worth, I don't think that'll ever happen in our lifetime. It's just, I suppose, you know, a key aspect of the sort of spiritual teachings that I try and not always succeed to adhere to is the importance of forgiveness in any scenario. You know, there's people out there that have had their children murdered by these people and have genuinely forgiven these people. Where they find that is remarkable to me, but it just shows you how remarkable the human spirit can be. You know, I mean, it's a strange situation for me, all this Lorne business, because when I make fun of him, I know I shouldn't really. It's not the highest thing a human can do, but I can't fucking help it.
It really tests us. He really tests us. You know, I'm not exactly sure what he's testing in us, because there's always something in us that says, are we doing the right thing? You know, is this all of us on this one guy? But this one guy seems to be holding up his end pretty good. You know, but you know, there's always that. We had a stream on that. But I don't know. And well, I'm not going to go into that, but he's just. I just want to know more about him, but I really want the truth, though. I don't want more bullshit, even though the bullshit's comedy. I kind of want to figure out exactly where what happened in that black void of history that we don't know about. Sit down and actually talk to him about it, and you can tell the things that are important.
It'd be a fascinating conversation to have with him if he'd be honest. It really would. I'd love nothing more, to go through the chat log, not in a sadistic way, and say, "Oh, Luke, when you said Mr. Penis," just from a kind of, I'd love to do it in that comedy scenario, but I'd love to go through it bit by bit with the honest side of him and say, "What were you thinking, man? What did you think you were going to achieve?" I think that would actually be a physical impossibility because let's just say that he did announce that he was, that he realised what he did and all that. I don't think his mind would allow him to go to a place where he'd actually be able to be honest about everything. I don't think he could cope with it. Tiffany? Tiff?
Yes.
Just making sure you're paying attention. Was there any point... Was there any point during him reading the chat log? I've not really listened to a lot of that, but was there any point when you thought that something was... Do you think there was any point where he actually realised what a fuckwit he was? Or was it all distancing? Does that make any sense, that question?
No.
The question doesn't make any sense. Or no is the answer to the question.
Well, what are you asking?
Was there any part when he was reading the chat log of him that you thought it was getting through to him, that he realised what he, any kind of realisation, I suppose? I'm struggling to word it. I'm struggling to articulate what I mean. No,
I don't think he's denying what he said. He can try a little bit, but he knows. So I don't think that there's any sort of great secret that he's gaining from looking at this. I don't think he remembers necessarily the details, but he knows that he was speaking to this girl in the way that he was in order to get him to the house. He just tries to deny it. And he doesn't remember everything because, of course, we ended up talking about his victims, and that wasn't... I think that was actual surprise. He didn't remember that he had talked about this person in his chat. But I think that going over the chat and saying, well, now why did you say this here? Why did you say any of the stuff about talking about your penis and wanting to, going through your whole grooming process? I think the big question is at the very beginning when he said, did anyone say anything in here that made you say wow? That is the starting point of his sexual bullshit. He was trying to gauge what her reaction was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is your question. Because the rest of it, when he's going and talking about, how her experimenting, getting her to masturbate, you can talk about some things with him that he doesn't mention that I think we can all pretty much assume to be true. We know that when the camera was on Mr. Penis, that it wasn't just sitting there.
Yeah.
He was doing what he was doing to keep that thing alive, if that's even possible. But he was definitely masturbating in front of her. He was doing all of the really gross stuff. So I think, you can ask him questions like that. Like, okay, well, here you said it's not going to take long for the white stuff to come out. Why did you call it white stuff? Like that, those types of questions. But I think going line by line with certain things, it's just like
you had to get him.
He's going to shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but he's just going to shut down. I mean, like you guys have said, he's not really going to give you the
The other,
actual answer.
and the way he was reading it was really monotone, almost like when you have to eat something and you don't want to eat it, but you have to, and so you try to swallow it without smelling it, that kind of thing. It seemed like he was trying to distance himself during the reading.
Well, of course. I mean, think about what was happening.
Yeah. Well, of
I
course,
mean,
I
would
don't.
you,
Yeah, he's
if
not.
you had done this and you're basically being talked into, hey, we're going to do this for your benefit, for your treatment. We're going
Yeah.
to have you read your chat log. The most disgusting, and have to say it to an adult. He's not comfortable saying that kind of stuff to an adult.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, by the way, the stream you did last night with Great Babsy was fantastic. I loved it, and I don't know if you answered that. Oh, by the way, also the issue about how Lorne was making fun of betraying her parents, Kayla's parents, all that stuff. That came from a lot of that came from Great Babsy. She actually came up with some really good analysis on that. But I definitely felt that. But one of the questions I'm not sure if you got last night. Do you think? Well, I'm not even sure if we want to go this far, but do you think he's gotten any more victims?
Yes,
Real victims?
definitely.
Really?
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. In like before victim number one, or what we refer to as victim number one.
Two.
Yeah, I think everything that has happened has all been an escalation. So it wasn't like he met victim one and all of a sudden hit the bullseye
Right.
and got someone who was willing to interact with him and was groomed.
Right.
I think that certainly there were a lot of attempts made on his part in order to get to have the courage really to, because I imagine that someone who is grooming and is a predator understands that they're not supposed to be doing it, and that it can cause them to be the type of guy who walks in to catch a predator, to get caught, and that's a nightmare for them. They don't want to do that, so they're going to kind of warm themselves up. And being on the internet, like I even explained to him, is the place for someone to experiment with their fantasy. They can say things that they might not be willing to do in person right away, because that's a really scary thing. He knows what the impact could be if he were to go up to someone of that age and actually flirt with them.
Mm-hmm.
That child can go and tell someone, and then he's busted immediately.
Yeah, we should define what could victimize. What we mean by victim. Could be a lot of things. Erido raised something. She said at the very least he had access through his nieces and their friends.
100%.
Yeah.
He definitely did. I mean, if we were to go into the thought crimes of Lorne, I think we would, it would be a really, really dark place.
We'd be here all day.
Oh, definitely. So he definitely had the access to his nieces and also their friends. And that's where his interest was lying. But I think for him to overtly be like, asking for them to flash him, I think that would be really scary for him to do. So he went on the internet, and there he can kind of test the waters, and he could start to learn what it is to groom. And not just, in the type of way of being like, I'm a good guy, you can talk to me, don't worry about it. Right. Everyone else is weird, I'm here to keep you safe. But also just in the way of, how do I go undetected? Do I go on MySpace instead of staying on Yahoo?
Where do you learn that?
Well, he learned it through his whole process. And I'm sure that there were things that if he's going into these other chat rooms, now in Yahoo, there were a bunch of user created chat rooms that were were insinuated in the last Ramona call that was uploaded to the dump, that he was told that they found him in Daddy's like little girls or something like to that effect. where it was basically understood that it was going to be older men who were interested in young girls. And there's no doubt in my mind that he was trolling around those rooms as well. And that's probably where he received his child porn.
Yep. I think
not just for the simple fact of being there, but actually having conversations with people. And it could have been someone who reached out to him and said, hey, are you interested in this? Or, getting an idea of what he would, it could have been someone pretending to be female speaking to him, and was talking about his interest and then was sending him the photos. But I think he definitely was in those types of situations, and maybe talking to someone who had that type of an experience. And what do you do? How do I make sure that no one ever finds out? Well, you delete your archives and no one can see it. So he's going to be kind of working through those types of scenarios and those types of techniques so that he can make sure that he goes undetected.
I truly think that he's most attractive to his age of choice, being around Kayla's age. I think I used to wonder about that, whether it was a crime of opportunity, he just stumbled on it. But there's so much more background we have right now that I think if he had his chance, he would definitely pick somebody like that for the very reason that he can mold this person. This person won't have preconceived ideas of what a man's supposed to be. All this other stuff. And he was in training with his nieces and their friends and everything else, and he felt very comfortable in that world. So I think if he had a choice between, at some point, before he got caught, obviously, between an adult woman and someone Kayla's age or somewhere the tweener age, he would take the tweener. I believe that.
I agree with that, and I think there's a lot of reasons, not just the reasons that you mentioned, although it all goes in tandem. Really, it's someone he can mold. It's someone who he can manipulate, and he has the intelligence. You see, that's what predators do. They go after the weak. If you're an adult, you have something you have massive advantages over someone that age. They are still technically a child, but at that age, they're starting to develop and grow into an adult. So they have got I even feel uncomfortable saying it this way. They've got the starts of very early development things in the body. So it's something that he can find that level of attraction, can't he? He's like asking her how many hairs she's got and all that stuff. He was obsessed with that part of her body. To the point where it was amusing and also disturbing, and it was like, count the hairs down there. We all make fun of it, which is pretty funny.
Well, even
there's more to it than that, isn't there? He's obsessed with somebody going through that transition.
Look at the part where Kayla was talking about being with her friends, and he needed to know what that conversation was. It's like he felt comfortable. Okay, let's spill it. Let me hear what happened. Things like that. He's comfortable in that world.
Well, I think he wanted to know if she was talking about him too. Did they talk about boys? Did she talk about Derek? Yeah.
But I should say the way he was talking about it, he seemed comfortable about it. He seemed like it was business as usual for him.
Right.
I believe if he wasn't caught, he would still be preying on younger girls. First of all, he'd prey on everyone. But the best chance he would have would be with younger girls.
He's admitted it in one of the calls. I don't know which one it was. It was one of it might have been one with you, Tiffany. I don't know. Where he said that the reason he went for these younger people is because he didn't think he was good enough to get anybody else his own age.
Actually, he said
when he said that,
he couldn't find anybody else his own age who was decent. That's what he said.
Is that what he said?
Right.
That's exactly what he said.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, decent means his standards.
Yeah.
So and that means anybody who has a mind of their own. That means anybody who could recognize
anybody that's discriminatory, anybody that has anything about them is what we're saying, isn't it?
Well, Tiffany once hit it right on the head with him. Hit him right between the eyes and said, "You just wanted her because she didn't know what was not normal." And that's exactly right. What he did, what he does, and how he did it is certainly not normal to adults, an adult to adult situation. It would be a click, or it would be a block, right away. But a child, a little easier to get into, especially since he's got the lingo, or he thinks he did. He's got the dog, the pedo dogs, or they're not pedos, but he uses them that way. And then just the way he talks, he calls himself a boy. I'm a lucky boy. He calls those guys, but when he's talking about the group of children that Kayla hangs around with, he's the lucky boy. So he's in that. His mind is already there. So I believe his mind has always been there, and I believe that was only the only thing that he had left, which is why he had victim one, who had problems, was younger, didn't recognize he was a freak, and it would be much easier for him to get somebody that way.
And that's what the essence of a predator does. That's what these type of people do. They seek out these vulnerable people, and they use them for their own purposes. And we find it disturbing because it is, they're going after our children, which is what they're there to be protected. And it's crazy. Like, I've been in relationships with girls, and they've had young children, and like, I've always felt like a part of that family, and you develop a bond.
Yeah.
As 99% of people do, we all have that instinct to protect our children. Even have you seen that YouTube video where the baby falls in the gorilla's pen and the gorilla protects the baby?
No, I didn't see that. No. Oh, that was a real life situation. That was a news. Or was that that was a real life story, right?
Yeah, it was. There was I think it was in an Asian country. There was how the fuck that kid got in that pen, I don't know. But the gorilla kind of protected the child. They thought it was going to eat it or something. Yeah. Now, of course, that won't always happen. Sometimes the animal will devour a human or whatever. But it was just interesting because the nurturing part of that gorilla took over, because obviously we share a lot of similarities DNA wise with those creatures, and the nurturing part of it took over. And when somebody like Lorne comes along who defies that, it makes us question what we are as a species. It runs deep. And this is why, even though I disagree with a lot of people on their stance about what evil is and all that kind of stuff, I wouldn't ever think negatively on someone else who has that opinion, because it cuts so deep. When someone like him comes along, I don't think he deserves any sympathy. He doesn't. The only reason I take the stance I do is because it's healthier to try and understand it rather than just hate him for the sake of it. But he and McFetridge and people like that, they are the worst type of people. It's good that we find the humor in it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to, cope, would we?
Tom Hunter has a good question. I think it would be better for Tiffany to answer, but I think you may have touched on this last night. Asks, can you bring up the question as to whether the panel thinks if Lorne would hit a woman and under what circumstances?
Oh, yeah. I did talk about it last night, I think. I'm pretty sure. As far as hitting, I've always thought that maybe not necessarily, like the punch to the face or anything like that, but everything else I think would definitely apply. And when it was brought up to him, as far as holding somebody down, or not allowing them to leave, he thought that was okay, and that was justifiable. I think that if I came at him and pushed him, I think that he would push me back. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that, that there are definitely women who act out like that too. But I think that that as far as the domestic violence, he would absolutely be someone who would commit domestic violence.
Yeah,
we can see his volatile behavior, with the stories that we've heard about Nikki, and there's that story out there that he showed up at her work, was harassing her, and then there was this protective order in place. those are the types of things that he would do. And you can hear him over the phone as someone who is screaming out of his mind, you know, that this woman is not doing what he wants her to do. She's not acting the way that he wants her to.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to get so angry like that, if someone were to be in his presence during those moments, I think his hands would definitely be on her, maybe shaking or holding down somehow, pushing, not allowing to leave, and basically just being in her face, screaming.
Yeah, I think you're being a little charitable. I think the only reason this is all extremely guesswork. You know, obviously we have some hints on what we would do. Yeah, he wouldn't punch him. I don't think he would punch because I don't think he would. You know, I don't think he's been in many fights in his life and whatever. Maybe he doesn't. But the problem is we have no track record on him. He's never been in a relationship. We don't know. You know, that to me
it's impossible to know, isn't it? But we can certainly make educated guesses upon the type of character he is, his controlling behavior. He doesn't ever show any violent tendencies physically, but he shows all the signs of being someone who, let's just say he was in a domestic relationship, he would very quickly exhibit those type of tendencies, and I think personally he would turn violent. I think he could turn as violent as he could get away with.
I think he would. I think it would basically be once he gets out of control.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree. And when he feels threatened, because he would be with someone. The only scenario where he'd be in a relationship with someone is someone he could overpower and get the better of. He wouldn't. He's not able to be in a position where he can be questioned or, you know, it's an open forum.
And if you left and he knew you weren't coming back, I don't know what he would do in that situation.
What do you mean?
Well, if you got into a knockdown drag out fight with him, you know, it wasn't physical or anything like that, and you said, "That's it, I'm gone. Okay, bye," and then try to walk out. I don't know what he would do. Because there you have an additional element of desperation, in addition to anger and rage or whatever he's dealing with underlying. So whatever he would do to try to keep you there, he would try to keep you there, obviously. But if you were insistent on going and he knew you're going to leave, I think he would lose control even more.
He even exhibits it. His behavior shows the early signs of domestic abuse already in the relationship with Kayla, where it's something as simple as writing capital letters when he gets angry and shouting at her.
Yeah, he's jealous.
You know,
jealous,
you will not, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but you can remember the bits that you're talking about. He's exhibiting this control over her.
Yeah.
And
he gets angry.
Yeah. And, you know, somebody, just because there might not have been violence for as we know in the past, it can change very, very quickly. If you're a male, which of course he is, not in the, you know, not a real one, but, you know, he would exhibit that kind of behavior, I believe. God, this is just a theory. But
and simply because he had no opportunities, we don't know. And I would err on the side of caution with him. Yeah. For sure.
Well, yeah, of course. But I think an interesting thing, too, to consider is that Lorne believes that domestic violence is hitting. He doesn't see it as all the other stuff that we do with intimidation, throwing things, punching walls, you know, screaming, yelling in somebody's face, intimidating them, holding them down, shoving them, pushing them against the wall, you know, all that other kind of stuff. He doesn't see that. The way that he sees it is, I would never hit a woman. And so that's the reason why I don't think that he would just punch somebody. I don't think that he would. Well, but he's going to do everything else. But I think still, even him losing control, he's still going to do everything else except for that, because he does, you know, he's very insistent on certain things. And for him, I would never hit a woman because I'm a man is something that he would hold on to.
Yeah, he was raised by his mom, don't forget.
That's right.
He breaks those principles all the time. Did you, Tiffany? Did you see Rhoda's questions even more specific?
No, I didn't.
It says it's just.
Do you think he would force sex if a girl got him hot and bothered, then said no? Would he stop? I think that he would. I don't think he would. He would actually physically dominate someone to commit rape, but I think that he would do it in very manipulative ways. I think psychologically he would do the most that he could to, to guilt them into it. Like, you can't do that. That's not fair. Like, why don't you? And who are you fucking if you're not fucking me, type of thing. But yeah, I think that he certainly would do everything else. So it goes along with the domestic violence thing. I think there's one thing he won't do, but he'll do everything else. And that doesn't make him a good guy. It just means that he operates on a different, on a different playing field.
That prevents him from doing it, couldn't it?
I think that's it too, so that he can tell himself that he's not a rapist, because that's what he thinks a rapist is.
Yeah, he might go right up to that line, I think. Right. But he might do things like, well, you're not taking your clothes off, things like that. Mm-hmm. Stay there, stay in bed, until you come to your senses, or whatever. He wouldn't say that, but I think that it would show itself in different ways other than the actual act of penetration.
Right.
Yeah, he's.
Wow, and I was hoping. I mean, I've enjoyed this. I think it's stirred up some very interesting conversations, but I was hoping for just a completely light-hearted one today because of everything that's going on in the world, and it's kind of evolved into kind of us getting really to the nitty-gritty, which is fine. I've enjoyed it. It's really great to talk to both of you. I think we all share interesting insight from a different perspective sometimes, which I think is really important. There's no point just having people on that agree with me on everything. What would be the fucking point of that, So, but I do apologise. I could carry on for hours. One of these days, I'm going to boot the Monday off work, and we'll just keep going as long as it takes, and we'll have a bit of fun. Maybe, and maybe we could do maybe get some money going, and get some money for the donations and whatnot. We'll think about doing that in the future. But for the moment, I'm going to have to wrap it up because I do have to get to bed because it's like 20:11 here, and I'm up at 5:45, so not much time.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a lot of fun, guys, hasn't it?
Absolutely.
It's been great. We actually came back to the topic a few times. We kind of use it as a template.
We did. Yeah, we spent a good hour talking about the original topic, and then it just kind of branched off into various other ones. There were some great questions coming in from the people, and then it got us leading to. It was just interesting. It just shows you, doesn't it? Isn't it weird how you've got this one guy, but yet we can discuss so much. It's really interesting.
We can take every line of his chat log and have an analysis on it.
That's true. That's
Each
true.
line.
We could spend 1 week or even 1 month talking about one page and just go on and on and on. Well, yeah, but then again, we were going to do a video about The Room, weren't we, Tiff?
Yeah.
Which we will do soon, but you're going to watch it again, aren't you?
I have to watch it again, definitely.
Yeah, you've not watched that yet, have you, Shin?
No, I'm told it's a notoriously bad movie. I don't. I guess that's what the attraction is.
Yeah, I'm not too sure you'll like it because you've been involved in that kind of thing. You probably have an insight.
I like that stuff. I mean, I'm just. I want to catch up with you guys. Whatever you're doing, I'm doing. Okay, I'll watch it. You always send me documentaries, and you're always on top of me about things, but you never bothered me about that one. But I'll do that one.
I honestly didn't think you'd. I'm not too sure if you like it actually.
Well, I got to know what you guys are talking about, so I at least got to do some research here. So
yeah, you must have heard of. Did you hear about the movie The Disaster Artist?
Oh, good. Can I give my shout out? Is that okay? Real quick.
Yeah.
Okay. I missed one last night. One of our best content makers, one of my favorite content makers, is Kelp Pill. Everybody, check out her content. She does a series called Kayla's Diary. It's fantastic. She was also extremely instrumental with us getting those transcripts on his last revocation hearing. So let's see what we can do to support Kelp Pill. She's great. Thank you.
Yeah, she was instrumental in getting us that document, which gave us a lot of fucking entertainment, didn't it? It was remarkable stuff. And I believe there's going to be a stream later on Clobbering Times channel with Nick, who went to the McFetridge hearing. So I think that's going to be really interesting, guys. I don't know what time he's doing it. It's always when I'm asleep. Sometimes I get up in the morning, it's still ongoing. That's happened a couple of times. So check that one out, guys. I've no doubt we'll be doing another stream soon. You were going to start umpiring, weren't you, Shin? But it's unfortunately due to...
It's so sad right now. I'm watching some days go by. I'm just sitting on my couch. I'm in full gear, just crying. Can't do anything.
We've all been affected in various ways. I was supposed to fly out to Amsterdam on Thursday. It's been cancelled. I've lost lots of money. Not huge amounts, but enough. You know, it's a difficult time for everybody. A lot of people who work in like the tourist industry and things like that, and you know, not just that, but retail, and people are going crazy in Manchester, fucking stockpiling, buying toilet rolls. It's fucking. Oh.
I don't understand that. If somebody can explain,
mate, I understand it very, very well. People are fucking idiots. That's
what it is.
All there is to understand. Never mind. I'm gonna go off on one. Anyway, I fucking had a rant at Shin before. I said I don't want us to talk about this virus, and here's me going off on one.
I know.
So I apologise for being a hypocrite. And Socks has just joined us, and we've got to go. I do apologise. Such a shame.
Well, he was the reason why we were almost late for court, Socks. You remember?
Oh, well, he was the one. Do you remember when we set off in the car? I think Miss Watson was driving him, and the car had to stop, and he had to throw up
every 5 minutes
because he was that fucking hungover.
But he's here. He always makes it, though.
He does, yeah. Thanks for coming in, man. But I'm gonna have to get going, guys. Thank you so much to everybody in the chat. There's been some brilliant questions. Everybody's been joining in, and luckily for me, Tiffany's been chatting with most of the people while I've been kind of orchestrating the and making sure Shin behaves himself and doesn't chew and bounce the ball and things like that. So.
Ears like a bat.
Yeah, hey, and you kind of you went for a whole stream without doing it as well, dude.
Oh, she caught.
That's not true.
She caught me.
Oh, is it not? Oh,
yeah.
Right, okay.
I caught him. He was chewing. God.
Would have totally gone unnoticed if it wasn't for bat ears.
You can't.
No,
nothing
it's
can escape her.
No, absolutely not.
And to be fair, that bloody that microphone of yours is pretty sensitive, so you're not going to get anything past it, are you?
Yeah, I got to do something about this. Yeah, exactly. But it was fun, guys. Lots of fun.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, Mr. Koala, for only chewing once but getting caught. And thanks, Tiffany, for calling him out on it as well.
Absolutely. I'll do it every single time.
As you should do.
Right.
I can count on that.
So, to my very, very good friends, I thank you both so much for joining me. It'd be no point if you guys didn't help me out. And it's been good. I've really enjoyed this, guys. So thanks for joining us. We'll be doing another one soon. Don't forget the McFetridge chat on CT's channel later on. That'll be pretty good. I'd listen myself if I weren't in bed. But so guys, thank you. Have a great Sunday, and we'll